Hello everybody, I'm Jerry Gatcom, your host for the Top of the Morning Show, shooting today on the U.S. Constellation. And we're in the captain's cabin, and I'm between the captain's office and the captain's bathroom. Anyway, there's lots of noise in the background, lots of tours going on, cannons going off, and the noise of the city. We're going to have a great show. Our guest today from what they call the STEM program, Dr. Jamie Bracey and Tony Fowler, and they're going to tell you exactly what STEM is and how it becomes important in our lifetimes today. We'll be right back.
USS Constellation. There's a grand lady in Baltimore who has taken her rightful place as the Inner Harbor's crown jewel in the heart of the Chesapeake Bay. Imagine that, launched in 1854 and still afloat. Even more exciting, visitors can come aboard Constellation and explore to their heart's content. On board Constellation, history comes alive as visitors touch, feel, and experience what life was like for sailors during the Civil War. Just bring your imagination. The ship you see here, the sloop of war Constellation, was built at the Gosport Navy Yard in Portsmouth, Virginia, and launched in 1854. A newspaper account from the day of her launch reported that there were 8 pieces of the original frigate Constellation contained within her timbers.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jerry Gatcom, your host for the Top of the Morning Show. Today we're in the captain's cabin of the U.S. Constellation, which means we're out in the public. You'll see people touring this big ship behind us. You'll hear noises overhead of cannons rolling by and all sorts of people walking, and occasionally you might even hear the cannon going off, as well as the noise of the city in the Inner Harbor. I'm here today with our guests, Dr. Jamie Bracey and Tony Fowler. Which of you would like to begin and tell us what it is that you do?
Ladies first.
I am the Director of STEM Education and Research for Temple University, focusing on accelerating what young people know in high school in technology, engineering, science, and math.
Okay, that was a little backwards, right? STEM is those things, starting with the science. You said you're trying your focus on young people. Mm-hmm. What age group?
Anyone under 30 qualifies as a young person now.
That leaves me out. Oh well. And where do you find these people?
We work within the College of Engineering directly with high schools that are recruiting young people to become engineers, environmental engineers, civil engineers, software engineers. But we also, in my capacity as the director of the Pennsylvania Math, Engineering, Science Achievement Initiative, which is one of 10 states in the United States which runs a MESA program, similar to Maryland has a MESA. Washington State has a MESA. We also recruit young people from around our particular state who are very interested in participating in after-school programs, Saturday academies, specialized competitive events around engineering design and engineering competition. So we run the gamut from directly in school to after-school activities to increase the awareness of American children that these are where the jobs are in science, technology, engineering, and math.
You use the term MESA. I'm not sure everybody in our audience would know what that is, so if you'd please elaborate.
MESA stands for Math, Engineering, Science Achievement. Okay.
Having in the past worked in different fields, especially the environmental field, where I hired lots of engineers, I can say that it certainly is true that there aren't enough of them out there. And in years past, I know that we've gone to the international market, pretty much, to get those people. Why would the children, or anybody under 30, want to be involved in this? What's in it for them?
There are 2 reasons that American children are particularly and uniquely qualified to become the future engineers of America. First of all, this is a nation that was built on innovation. We have a legacy, a history, a culture from around the world. No matter how you got to the United States, you came from a culture of innovation. In the past, our H-1, our visa program did allow for some very, very strong contributions from people around the world whose interest in coming to the United States is starting to wane as their own countries pick up their own economic force and are able to hire people to stay in their own country. So the United States in particular, many of the defense-related opportunities that we have required American-born young people who can meet the citizenship requirements to work with our defense contractors or to work in our advanced R&D labs. So we really are very critically focused on making sure American-born children from wherever, rural, urban, suburban, et cetera, have opportunities to function.
Our other guest, and I'll introduce you, Tony Fowler. You've been sitting here so quietly all this time. How can you do that? Why have you been so quiet?
Well, I'm used to being quiet, but I have 4 girls, 4 daughters, and so I
All under
have a hard
30.
time getting very young, and so I have a hard time getting a word in edgewise.
We'll let you get a word in edgewise here. One of my questions, I'm curious, what, in your opinion, jointly, is the barrier to entry? Why haven't American children, to this point, gotten into these fields more extensively?
Well, I think that I run a consulting business, and one of the things that I focus on is the transition from school to career.
Okay.
And I think that in a lot of cases, at the school level, in K-12 education, there's a whole lot of focus on the content of education, but not enough about the fact that once you get your credential or your degree, whether it be a high school diploma or a college degree, that you're going to go out into the world of work.
Okay.
And so there's a movement in the country that's focused on what we call career pathways. And they're not all inclusive in terms of math, science, and technology education, which are very important, but it covers any kind of career area that a student would go into. But particularly in the cities that we're focusing on, which is Washington, Baltimore, and Philadelphia, there's a huge amount of activity and opportunity for students to get into math and science fields.
So you're saying there's a huge difference between book learning and the ability to use it?
Well, it's exactly right. And one of the things that we want to focus on is opening up the students in these cities' eyes to the potential for the types of jobs and careers that are available, whether it be in the maritime industry, in our maritime cities, or in cybersecurity, which we're really focusing on, and in the state of Pennsylvania, the same kind of thing is happening in energy that's happening in North Dakota, which is that there's a huge amount of activity around the fracking industry and a whole lot of jobs available. And what we want to do, the first thing I think from my experience is that you have to get the students' interest level up first. And when students get interested, they pursue their interest. And so what we want to do is show them that you can come here to the harbor, and there's lots of jobs working for the maritime industry. Cybersecurity is everywhere, and any kid who goes onto any website anywhere becomes aware of the threat of cybersecurity. And then also with the energy industry, you have a tremendous amount of jobs that are available. I think that in North Dakota, the unemployment rate is like 3.2% because there's so much job activity in the energy field. So those are the 3 industries that we're focused on, and hopefully bringing that message to inner city kids and really bring the message to kids who are in urban districts that they have possibilities for their lives.
Well, I want to focus on that, but we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.
We fire the cannon, turn the capstan, and ring the bell daily. And we recommend the free self-guided audio tour, which comes in 2 flavors, one perfect for children, the other for adults. Plus, there's the ever-popular Powder Monkey Tour for kids and hands-on adult tours like A Ship as a Machine and Black Sailors in Navy Blue. Groups can also come aboard and sling their hammocks in our overnight program or host special events. Our crew knows the USS Constellation is an amazing experience.
Welcome back, everybody. Again, I'm your host, Jerry Getka. Top of the morning show. We're on the U.S. Constellation in the captain's cabin. And if you hear some strange noises in the background, the creaking, the ticking, they're not ghosts. I'm here with our guests, Dr. Jamie Bracey and Tony Fowler, and we're talking about the opportunities for inner city children in your STEM program. Why did you happen to pick that category of children, the inner city children in these particular areas, Baltimore, Washington, Philadelphia?
Well, our interest in Pennsylvania and in Baltimore, Maryland area, and in DC is that these are the high growth areas where the demographics are changing and growing. However, these are also the children who are chronically underperforming, but are often disengaged and probably have the least, what we call social capital in STEM. They're least likely to come from families where there's inheritance of engineering, where they don't necessarily know someone who's an inventor, who has a patent, who hasn't necessarily had a very strong mathematical background in the family's history. And so we know that with the changing demographics, with the fact that, we want to focus on more diversity and tapping America's talent, that this is where the talent is, and where there are cities where we have a very high dropout rates. I think research is beginning to emerge that suggests that it's not an issue of performance, it's an issue of disengagement. The children just are not interested in what's being taught. They don't think it's relevant, and so we're thinking that if we align this entire Northeast regional hub around energy, around cybersecurity, around engineering and the maritime jobs, that we'll not only engage them, we'll keep them engaged, to Mr. Fowler's point, by connecting what they're learning with what their future career opportunities are.
And Tony, you mentioned career paths and changing the past, the way it's been done in the past, and showing a new way of doing that. Can you give us some examples, perhaps?
There was a project that was run out of the Department of Education about 10 years ago, the U.S. Department of Education, and they actually, it was called Career Clusters at the time, but what they did was that they hired an association to develop these career pathways, and what they did was they looked at all of the entire the U.S. economy and broke it down into 16 different sectors. And within those sectors, they took a look at the individual jobs that are available in those sectors. And what they did was that they created what you might think of as sort of like a recipe book for a student who wants to pursue a specific job, a job focus. And the kids can look at this kit of materials that were produced and see that I need to take these courses in middle school, I need to take these courses in high school, and then it even goes into the first 2 years of college, so that basically they can get an academic grounding for specific career categories that they want to pursue. And that's
Is this the old path system or the new?
It's fairly new. And what has happened is that a lot of states have taken the ball with this career clusters activity and brought them into the economy of the individual states. Several years ago, I was in South Carolina, which is a huge hospitality state, for instance. Okay. And they have kitchens set up in high schools that are set up like the Iron Chef kitchen, and students are taught what it means to be top-notch in the restaurant industry.
So you're effectively advocating that these specialties should be addressed sooner in a child's education?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Absolutely. I would agree with that.
And that kind of fits with, I guess, what some of the school systems are doing when they set up these target programs, or I can't remember the term that's used here in Baltimore.
Remember, it used to be vocational technical education.
Okay,
and so
exactly.
Vocational technical education was often siloed away from college prep, right, as if they were completely separated, when in fact you have the capacity now to teach a young person how to move from the hospitality industry to different career pathways that start maybe at blue collar level, right, and go all the way to white collar level, where they're
so effectively take the stigma away from what used to be VOTech and call it what it is, a career path.
It's a career path.
Exactly.
And it makes absolute sense to apply the knowledge in a much more meaningful way. What we're advocating for is that each region of the United States has particular strengths, and that if we are going to respond to the tremendous shortfall that's projected in congressional reports around the number of American children who are prepared to enter the STEM workforce areas, that we're going to have to be really intentional and really focused on our investment around the strengths of a particular region. In the Northeast region of the United States, energy, cybersecurity, Maryland is a huge cyber state. And the DC area are all areas that can benefit from this commonality of focus and the commonality of investment for young people who can deliver the goods when given an opportunity. And we've seen numerous examples of that, whether it's in programming, coding, cybersecurity, where you have models of high school students and some middle school students, but mostly high school students, who are award-winning, nationally recognized for what they're doing in these urban centers. And so these urban centers are in a particular region. The region has all these assets, these industry partners who need to backfill their boomer retirees, and that's what we're focusing on.
So you're effectively taking concepts from microeconomics or something and saying those regions of the world or those countries that can do one thing best should concentrate on doing that.
Well, and also the fact that economy is local. You know, you grow up where you grow up, and it makes sense that you would be suited to the jobs that are available wherever you are. And what we're saying
I'm most familiar with it as
and
well.
in Philadelphia particularly, in the maritime industry, is that we're finding the maritime industry is having a lot of the same types of problems that the aviation industry is having and the IT industry is having. They're not finding qualified workforce. And what we're telling students, or what we hope to be able to tell students, is that they can become qualified and they can start on a path that will get them in the direction of a job that will be a job where they can have a family and have a career.
And if we have any number of these young students out there who happen to be watching the show, or their parents, how do they contact you? I mean, what's the process here?
Well,
How do they get involved in this?
The simplest thing to do right now is we're forming this, the hub for the Northeast United States is to contact either myself or Mr. Fowler. You can contact...
And we'll have your contact information running across the bottom of the screen.
And you can contact us in Pennsylvania. What we're doing is leading the conversation, but as collaborative partners with our cohorts in Baltimore and our cohorts in D.C. And so we are giving you the tip of the iceberg. You are breaking the news that this is a hub initiative that's coming to this part of the nation.
And we're finding that there are gems locally in DC and Baltimore. We just came from the Digital Harbor High School and the Digital Harbor Foundation, and we know that that's going to be a locus of attention for our activities. And what we also hope to do as we move forward is to bring the message into local community events that are like the Harbor Fest that Baltimore had just in October, where they really were putting the focus on the maritime industry for middle and high school students. We want to build on that, and really the biggest thing is that we want to deliver workforce. You know, everybody is talking about the unemployment rate in the United States, but at the same time, there are thousands and thousands of jobs that are going unfilled because there aren't enough people who have the skills or the qualifications to be able to take the jobs that are available. So it's sort of, we're trying to bring the two together so that we can show that there is talent in the urban areas and that we can grow that talent. And that's really what industry is looking for. Industry is saying, we want to be able to hire locally. We want to be able to hire students in the school districts where we're located, but we've got to find a way to attract that talent and help them to pursue the types of academic pursuit that will get them the skills that they need to get those jobs.
And we're going to build on that just as soon as we come back from this break.
It started small. Then it went global. Gamers from North America coming together with gamers from all around the world, from all walks of life, getting together to play games for 24 hours and raise money to help cure sick kids. With all funds raised staying local with Children's Miracle Network hospitals and partner hospitals internationally. For more info or to sign up, visit www.extra-life.org. Play games, heal kids, Extra Life.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jerry Getka, and I'm hosting this show about the STEM program with our guests, Dr. Jamie Bracey and Tony Fowler. A big question in my mind, since you're concentrating on inner city children in these areas, Baltimore, Washington, and Philadelphia, where are the resources coming from that will allow these children to proceed and go forward?
It's a very good question. In Philadelphia, we've already mobilized at least 4 different school districts. And the interesting thing is that some of the interest emerged from a meeting with some of our community colleges who were trying to turn around dropouts, recent dropouts.
Okay.
What they did was they went and they assessed those recent dropouts, and over 25% of those young people were mentally gifted. Mentally gifted
surprising.
children, not surprising at all. But there are certain pools of resources that are untapped within our departments of education for under special ed.
Yes, you're talking about public
designation.
funding.
Absolutely. It's already there. It's not being used. We're just talking about realigning existing resources and then giving industry partners something to really
If
invest
the
in.
industry partners are the ones that are going to be benefiting from this most greatly, are they involved in providing resources for this as well?
They have been. I think that
Shouldn't they be?
the challenge that we've all seen in designing these programs has been that
I think some of our interested children are joining us from behind here. Again, we're in the public, we're here in the U.S. Constellation, and there are tours going around all around us. So, okay, so there's a considerable amount of public funding available, but since the companies and industry is getting the greatest benefit from this, how are they participating? What resources are they providing?
well, actually, I think that it's not very clear that there's a lot of public funds available. I think there are a lot of consortium funds available, and industry is starting to provide scholarships, provide internships, provide externships for teachers and guidance counselors to come out and understand how these careers and the education pipeline impacts their future workforce and talent needs. So I think industry has really been looking for the last 5 to 10 years for really authentic ways to partner with the education system. I don't think that anyone knew before 2005. The congressional report Rising Above the Gathering Storm came out, where industry partners were really ringing the bell saying, hey, we're going to have a problem in 10 years if we don't realign how STEM education is being taught in the United States. And so then you saw the subsequent States of the Union where the focus was on STEM education and focusing on innovation in the United States. So the industry partners have been very interested, committed. McKinsey just reported on their Global Industry Partners Report that 42% of corporations that are international fear they won't even be able to hire entry-level employees. So if corporations are saying that they're concerned about finding entry-level employees, the onus is on those of us in education and industry. And I come out of Xerox, so I have a very strong affiliation for what the industry's role can and should be. You know, the opportunity is now. You know, to Tony's point, these are the parts of the nation that have the strongest growth in young people, every background, who can be tapped. And I think the Northeast United States is the place to be. That has the ports, it has all of the energy that's coming out for the United States. We are what's happening for this part of the nation.
Well, and I think that there's two aspects to what we're trying to do, and one of them is identifying potential workforce, but then also delivering qualified workforce. And what we're finding in the last couple of years is that, you know, when everybody talks about math and science education, they think that we're talking about PhDs, right? We're talking about post-secondary students. But when you take a closer look at the workforce, really what you're finding is that a lot of people working in the STEM workforce have 2-year degrees. They have 4-year degrees. And not only that, but there are good jobs with people with those academic credentials.
So effectively, you're saying not only do you need the basic education of STEM, science, math, technology, etc., but also the application of it in a particular field.
Exactly.
And that's what you're talking about in terms of these career paths.
Exactly. And what we found at the Digital Harbor Foundation this morning is that there's a student from Baltimore who decided that he was going to build his own 3D printer, and then found out how to do it and has done it, and he's got it down to 8 hours where he can put together a 3D printer, which is one of the hottest things in technology.
I wonder if you can make one for me.
And he could.
That's right.
And you could. We've identified in Chicago and Philadelphia and San Francisco that there are young people who are receiving top dollars at 14, 15, 16 years of age designing apps, mobile applications, right, for games to services. I have a team in Philadelphia that wrote the Veterans Administration Suicide Prevention app. So they are producing viable, valuable product that that society needs, and they just want a chance to exercise those skills.
So the talent is there, and your focus at this point in time is trying to figure out how to point that in the right direction.
Exactly. And one of the other things that I've been involved in the last decade is things like FIRST Robotics.
Okay.
And I've been a judge in the FIRST Robotics competition in Baltimore for 8 years. And what I found from that is that you have kids that have the capability of getting a robot kit and building a kit in 8 weeks to do a specific task and then use that robot in competition against other teams that have built their own robots. And what that shows really is that we have an enormous untapped potential in terms of future workforce, because we know that those kids have that skill and that interest. So what we have to do is direct that interest into the jobs that we need today.
And
what we're trying to tell industry is that these are some of the pockets where they can look, where they might not have otherwise been looking.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if some of these students who are so adept at the robotics and some of these other specific specialized fields, maybe some of those that have dropped out in some of these programs because they simply didn't have the interest.
I think that's the number one opportunity for those of us in education and in workforce development, and that is creating new and more dynamic ways to re-engage people who have walked away from the process. There's a lot of wealth. We're really talking about gold mining in the 21st century. We can go back and get all kinds of people to come back
Create
into
new
the
teaching
economy.
styles for the variety of learning styles that are out there.
Absolutely.
And there's one other aspect of what we're trying to do that I want to just put across, because I've worked with youth for many, many years, and I've got children of my own. And
Four daughters, right?
Exactly, and a son. But the issue is that the students are really attracted to stories that other students tell about what they're doing. And so one thing that we're trying to do is identify successful students in urban areas and get them to tell their own stories and show that they're being successful. And by doing that,
I think you've told us what our next show is going to be. But it's been such an interesting show with our guests, Dr. Jamie Bracey and Tony Fowler. And this is our last segment, so I want to be sure that we've addressed all of the things that you wanted to bring out to our audience here. Is there anything else, any final thoughts that you'd like to throw out?
well, I would just like to impress upon the viewer that we're going to work to try to identify talent in urban districts, youth talent that is out there, and tap into that talent and give them opportunities to be successful in their lives, successful professionally and economically.
Can't you picture that? I mean, next week on television, instead of the voice, we have the STEM.
The STEM.
The STEM people. Well, why not? A talent show for people under 30 with these special abilities.
We'd love to use your show to tell the stories that we're going to uncover as we move through this process.
All you have to do is find a sponsor. Anybody out there interested, just give us a call. The contact information is underneath. I think I'd like to see that show. Why not? You've been great guests. It's been wonderful talking to you. I've learned quite a bit today. It's really nice meeting you, Tony.
Thank you.
And Jamie.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Dr. Jamie.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
And we just chat as if we were saying something important and it goes off the background.
So welcome aboard USS Constellation and enjoy your visit to the historic sites of the Chesapeake Bay Gateways Network.